Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to today's video. I hope you're all doing really well. To be honest, today I just wanted to do a bit of a catch up with you. I wanted to have a chat, I wanted to have a coffee. I just wanted to talk about all the things that are going on inside my brain right now. And I thought the best way of doing that was doing a little Q&A. Loads of you asked so many questions to me when I popped it up over on Instagram, and I had full intentions of answering them on Instagram, but to be honest, on Instagram I find it really difficult to get out actually what I mean in such a small, whether that's a story or in a reel and stuff like that. I find YouTube so much easier because I feel like we're on a level here, we're all, I almost spilled my coffee, we're all just, mums trying to get through, figuring out difficult situations and navigating motherhood, whether that's having one baby, having two babies, 3, 4, 5. I just feel like we're just such a great community, and I just feel really, this is like my safe space. And I really love talking to you guys in the comments as well. So I thought this is the place for it. Just want to have a little bit of a catch up. Like I say, mum friends having a coffee while the babies nap, hopefully. So Hallie has just gone down. I'm hoping that I've got a good 40 minutes. But yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out soon. So yeah, that is the plan. But yeah, make sure you get yourself a coffee. Pause it. Go get a coffee. Sit down. If the kids are awake, put your headphones in, whatever it is. Or if you've got a baby that just loves watching people on YouTube, then those are the days. Cling on to those days. So without a doubt, the first question that I got the most was, how are you? How are you feeling? I hope you're okay. And that means so much to me, guys. Really does. I feel like I've been in a bit of a rut recently. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the time of year. Obviously life's difficult, busy, and it also feels a little bit like Groundhog Day sometimes when you're constantly, doing the same mundane tasks day in, day out. Everyone needs you constantly. I know that I'm preaching to the choir here because I know that so many of us feel exactly the same. But yeah, I've just been feeling a little bit up and down, and I've voiced that a few times on vlogs and on Instagram and stuff. I've just, some days I'm like, I love my life. Everything's great. This is everything I've always wanted. I'm so lucky. I'm so privileged, and I know that. And that is 100% how I want to feel. I always want to feel like that. But the reality is, I don't always feel like that. And I think that's okay. I love the fact that I've got 2 beautiful kids. Everyone is happy, healthy. There are some anxieties around different various things, but generally everyone's happy. And I'm literally living the life that I always wished for. I know that, but I can't ignore the fact that there are days where I just feel down. I feel touched out. I feel exhausted. I just feel like nothing else other than a mum. I don't feel like me very often, if I'm totally honest. And I'm really working on it, but I want to be honest with you guys because I know that I'm not alone in feeling like that. I have really struggled, I think, going from 1 to 2 kids, and I haven't been shy about sharing that. The newborn days were very difficult for me. I know I've shared before that I had the baby blues and potentially a little bit of PND in the early days when Hallie first arrived, which makes me really sad to think about because it should have been a really happy time, and it just really wasn't a lot of the time. I really wanted it to be, and I really tried to be positive, and I think actually looking back, I did a really good job of trying to maintain that positivity for the kids and everyone around me. One thing I will say is I don't necessarily feel like that anymore. It's not as difficult as it was when Hallie was a newborn, when I was trying to breastfeed. We'll get onto breastfeeding a little bit later. It's definitely a little bit easier now that they are a little bit older. So George is almost 3 and a half and Hallie's 7 months old. So the ages, it's a lot more manageable at the moment than it ever has been, which is a massive positive. But I still can't take away from the fact that I still feel down some days, and I feel I feel lonely sometimes, and I feel like I've lost myself a little bit sometimes. And I'm really trying to work on all of those things. But for me, all I want to do is be completely honest with you. Nothing terrible has happened. I've gotten a great life, but sometimes I still feel like that. And if anyone else feels like that, I wanted to let them know that, you're just not alone. I genuinely feel like probably 50%, 70%, 80% of us watching this will have felt like that at some point, if not 100% of us, to be honest. So I found it a little bit difficult going from 1 to 2 kids, physically, emotionally, you know, mentally, I actually started doing a little bit of online therapy, and I do 1 session a week, and I find it so incredibly beneficial. This is actually a paid partnership with BetterHelp. I know you guys probably would have heard of it already, but I've started doing my sessions with them after basically I filled out the questionnaire of all the things that I wanted to achieve, the things that maybe I had concerns about, all the things I wanted to get out of therapy. It basically connected me with a therapist that specialises in those areas. And for me, it's just a person that I can talk to without judgment. They're not biased, they don't know me. I can just talk freely, completely freely, and I feel like there's nowhere else I would feel comfortable doing that. With my therapist, I'm really, really open, really honest, and we can really start to work through some stuff. If you think you could benefit from therapy, then I'll put my link down in the description box. I think it gets you 10% off your first month. In most cases, you'll get matched with someone within 48 hours. I got matched with my therapist within 24 hours, and it's really convenient because I can schedule in a time after bedtime. The kids don't have to be awake. I always have mine at 7:45, so I'm pretty sure the kids are going to be down. If not, Daddy can take over and I'll go and sneak off and do my therapy session. So with BetterHelp, you can also have your therapy session however you want to do it. You can do text messages, you can do phone calls, and you can do video calls. I chose to do mine on phone calls just because I wasn't, at the time I had my hair up in a mum bun, I was in my joggers, and I just looked like a steak because I'd just done bath time. So yeah, I love the fact that you can choose the one that's the most, just comfortable for you. Plus it's online, so you don't have to, that person doesn't have to be anywhere near you. I feel like we're a really good fit, but if you're not a good fit with your therapist, you can actually go through BetterHelp and then find a new one. They just connect you with someone different until you find the best fit for you, which is obviously really, really great. Plus there's no additional cost or anything like that. Like I say, I'll link everything down in the description box where you can use my link and get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, where you can connect with a therapist and figure out if it's going to actually help you, which personally it definitely has so far. Anyway, I hope that kind of answers the question about like how I'm feeling and stuff. I'm working on it. It's just one of those things that I've just kind of realised that over the last 7 months, my mental health isn't linear. Like, it will go up and down, and it's just about the practices that I put in place and the things that I can do to set myself up for a decent day, a decent week, whatever that might be. And then sometimes just giving myself a little bit of space to feel how I'm feeling. And yeah, I definitely feel like I'm in a lot better place than I have been in different stages of the last 7 months. The next one that I got a lot was about breastfeeding. So I guess if you watch my vlogs here on YouTube, you'll probably know that I stopped breastfeeding Hallie around 4 months. So maybe this isn't necessarily for the YouTube audience, maybe it was more for my Instagram followers, because those people are different. People that follow me on there and subscribe over here don't always watch all of the vlogs or don't always see all my story. Like, it's just a bit of a mixture. But over on Instagram, a lot of people didn't realise that I stopped breastfeeding because I had a lot of questions about it, like why I stopped breastfeeding, how I stopped breastfeeding, when I stopped breastfeeding, tips for stopping breastfeeding. And all of the questions about breastfeeding, basically. So to be honest, I kind of made a point of not announcing the fact that I was like stopping breastfeeding, to be honest, through fear of judgment, through just kind of a little bit of I felt like I'd failed a little bit. I also felt that part of me didn't want to. There was just a few reasons. To be honest, emotionally I wasn't quite in the right place to like just talk about it and whatever. Like, I just didn't want to have to talk about something, so I just didn't make it a thing. But I have to say, it was really hard. It was really hard to stop breastfeeding, physically and emotionally, but it was 100% the right decision for us, and I'm so glad that we made that transition. But like I say, it was really difficult. Physically, like the obvious, like just the milk supply is all over the place. So yeah, it was very tricky physically. So there was a lot of like hand expressing and a lot of like warm showers and warm baths, like trying to the physical part of breastfeeding was something that I incredibly underestimated, like entirely underestimated, like how physically demanding that is, but also like the practicalities of like, having your boobs full of milk essentially all the time. When you're picking things up, you're doing things with a toddler, you're in and out of the house, like even being on the go or being away from your baby for more than like 2 hours. It was, not that I do that often, but it was just difficult. If we ever went on like days out and we were out in some like country park, or we were, and we were all wrapped up and like it was cold, and then I'd have to try and whack my boob out, like to fit. It was just so difficult, like practically. On the emotional side of it, I really didn't know that that was something that my body was going to do. Like, I genuinely think it was a hormonal thing, because your hormones are all over the place when you're breastfeeding after you've had a baby. Generally, it's just crazy. It's just wild what that does to you. And yeah, like, I was a bit of a mess. I was a bit of a mess, definitely. I felt like my baby didn't need me anymore. I felt like I was letting her down. It was just crazy. Like, my practical brain just left the room, entirely. And my emotional, hormonal, like, state, my mothering, like, state just, like, completely took over. And I think it just, yeah, I kind of let it a little bit, and I think that's fine. Like, I think it's fine to feel like that. But yeah, I definitely let it take over the whole situation. Like I say, it was definitely the right decision for us. And I'm very, very glad that we are where we are now. It's just, it was a difficult transition, and I'm not going to hide that. Like, it definitely was. In terms of how I did it, we were already combination feeding anyway, because breastfeeding was really difficult. That was another reason as to why. Like, obviously it was just really difficult. She wasn't getting enough food. She wasn't getting enough every feed, and so she was feeding very often, and I mean, like, every half an hour. Like, she just wasn't getting what she needed. She drinks a lot of milk now, plus she's not really taking to solids. So, like, she's a bigger girl. Like, her percentile, she's on, like, the, I think, 80th percentile. So, and she's tracking that. She's, like, consistent with that, so she's on the bigger side in terms of just, like, height and everything, and weight and stuff. So yeah, like, she just needs a lot of milk, and my body was not producing it. So yeah, we started the combi feeding process, and then as the sort of days went on, you know, I started just doing, like, maybe 3 breastfeeds a day, and then I went down to 2 breastfeeds a day, and then I ended up just doing 1, and then there was just a day that I didn't do it, and then yeah, it was really sad. It was really sad, and I don't know really why. I feel like if you haven't ever breastfed, you'll never understand that, because I didn't breastfeed my first, and I understood there would be an emotional, like, connection with it, but I could never have understood it to the extremes, how I felt. So yeah, it's just crazy, really. The next question was on naps, and it was just basically, how do you get Hallie down for naps, and how often does she nap, and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing that I would say is, for nap times, the thing that has, like, revolutionized sleep for us, again, because when Hallie was tiny, she couldn't sleep unless she was, like, on the boob or she was being rocked in something. Like, I wouldn't have been able to just put her down and then she would fall asleep. Like, that would just not have happened. My first, that is exactly what happened. He was always just put down and he slept. Like, he was just a sleepy baby, easy baby. He was just an easy baby, and I don't ever want to look back at my videos from when he was a baby, because I was probably just a smug, like, just thought everything that I did was perfect because I had an easy baby, but in actual fact, it was just because I had an easy baby. This time round, not so much. So yeah, we've had to work at it a lot with Hallie. And so basically we went from obviously her needing to be rocked constantly to basically me needing her to sleep for longer, and, like, her needing to be able to sleep for longer. And it coincided a little bit with the breastfeeding and the combi feeding, and then going on to formula, and then also the nap schedule. The nap schedule was so key for us. Understanding those awake windows and, like, times that she needs to sleep was so vital. Like, when she was small, if we didn't actively try and get her to sleep, she would be awake for, like, 5-6 hours at a time, and for a newborn, that is not okay. Like, it was absolutely not what was needed at all. So yeah, we got the Huckleberry app, which I highly recommend for basically anyone. We're still using it, I think, in the newborn days, early days, when you're trying to get into a nap routine. It's really, like, really key. I used to have an app called Baby Tracker when George was tiny, and that was very similar, but the Huckleberry app is fantastic. I got the paid for version, but you don't have to get the paid for version. The reason I actually went for the paid for version was because of the sweet spot feature. I think Hallie's awake. Okay, we're gonna have a little bit of a scene change, guys, because Hallie's woken up from a nap, and we're just in the living room. It's a bit cozier for us. She's watching a little bit of Dancing Fruit. She's on her mat doing some tummy time. I might have to, like, go to and from, but I know that you guys get this. You get my life. What were we talking about? Naps. Classic. We were talking about naps. So I was saying about the Huckleberry app. The reason that I ended up getting the paid for version was because I really liked the sweet spot feature. So for me, especially because Hallie's my second, and I've got got so much else going on, like, at all times. The sweet spot feature on the Huckleberry app was something that was just so, it was like a turning point for when we were trying to get her down for naps. Basically, this little bit here, which tells you when her next nap is due. Sounds really, really simple, but it's on my front screen at all times. I know that she's due her next nap at 10 minutes past 2. So give or take 10 minutes, that's when she'll start getting aggy, that's when she'll start showing signs of tiredness. Maybe 5 minutes before you'll start seeing those cues, but it gives me a rough idea as to when she's going to need her nap, which is so vital for getting her down, because she'll go down a lot easier if she's in that sweet spot of when she needs her nap. If she's not due her nap yet, or she's overtired, getting her down for that nap's gonna be so much harder. Right, so once you know, obviously, when your baby needs their nap, like properly, like what is the best time for them to go down for a nap, etc. The next thing, I guess, is actually getting them down for that nap, which is a tricky one, especially if your baby is like being rocked to sleep and stuff like that, or like contact napping. The transition is a transition, like it's a transition for a reason. It's not going to be easy. Some babies just take to it really, really easily, and then others just don't. I have a feeling that if you have a baby like mine, they won't be as easy. So I just made sure that her room was dark. I had some white noise going. She was nice and full, like from milk. Obviously before going down, she was burped, so she didn't have loads of like wind. And that was just the best I could do. Then I would put her down, she would cry a little bit, but oftentimes it wouldn't be like a hysterical cry, you know the cries, like basically I'd put her down, and if she cried a little bit, I kind of left it for like 2 minutes. Felt like the longest 2 minutes of my entire life, but I would leave her, and then if the cry escalated, I would go in and I would just comfort her a little bit and then try again. But if the cry didn't escalate and it was kind of staying at a sound like level, or decreasing, then I wouldn't go in and I'd leave it for 5 minutes, and oftentimes after 5 minutes she was winding down herself and I knew that she would actually end up falling asleep on her own. Other times, if it was increasing, like I say, I would just go in, I would comfort her until she was absolutely fine, and then I would go again, do the 2 minutes. Oftentimes she would increase her volume and I would go in again, and other times she would decrease her volume and I wouldn't go in. And then I just eventually, it just got to a point where within 5-10 minutes of her being in her cot, she would either whine a little bit, like not cry, she would whine a little bit, or she wouldn't whine at all when she'd go straight to sleep. Weirdly, at night time, she never puts up a fight, she never cries, she never whines, she literally just falls asleep within 30 seconds. It's just really funny, I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's just like the general like body clock of it being nighttime. Yeah, that's what we did, isn't it, Hallie? It's not really a fancy method, it's just what I felt comfortable doing, and I feel like a lot of us who had our kids in lockdown, our firsts, we had the luxury of like giving them that structure and that routine because we didn't have anything else to do or anywhere else to be, whereas with our second babies or third babies or just babies outside of lockdown, you know, there's life to be lived and things to be done, and you know, the structure and the routine can't always be the forefront of every decision. So now I'm just going to pop Hallie's food on here, because I always put her food on here as well, her meals or her bottles, just so I can keep track of like when the last time she ate was, and she's still on like bottles every 3.5 hours pretty much. So yeah, that's what her little day looks like. You know what, last night she only woke up once, which was such a treat. Oh my goodness, I only had to wake up at about midnight, and then she went back to sleep and she didn't wake up till 8, no, 7:30. But yeah, like we're getting there, we're getting a lot better, but that was probably a fluke because most of the time she's up 2 or 3 times in the night. You know, it is what it is. But I don't know, getting used to it at this point, I'm not sure. I also got a load of questions about potty training, like how is potty training going and what were your methods that you used for potty training, etc. So if I'm totally honest with you, we are not 100% there with potty training. George doesn't wear nappies, he hasn't worn nappies in a very long time, but he is not very consistent. He is not very consistent with how often he'll actually take himself off to the toilet. Some days he'll have no accidents whatsoever and he'll absolutely just take himself off to the toilet. If he needs me to give him a hand with number 2s, I will do that, but other times he just doesn't want to do it. He's very much, if he's busy with something, he won't decide to then stop what he's doing and go to the toilet. And he's a busy boy, like he's always doing something. Yeah, I don't know what it is, like with playing and doing stuff, he won't just stop and go to the toilet. Most of the time with weed, he does do that. Sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he does, just like if he's too excited or whatever, and he's at soft play, like you bet your bottom dollar that he will 100% have an accident. Like it's just, I don't know what that is. I think it's just he's busy, doesn't want to miss out. I'm not sure. Number 2 is a bit of a tricky one. I don't know why I say number 2s. Poo is a bit of a trickier one. I don't know what that's about, but it's really, really hard to get him to want to go to the toilet on his own accord. Basically, if he does his little like weird face and like does a little squirmy thing with his body, you know that he needs the toilet, but he won't just go on his own accord. And if you ask him whether he needs the toilet, he'll say no, scream, shout. If I then went to pick him up and take him to the toilet, no, like no chance, I've lost the battle already. If I have to physically do something to George to like get him to do something, so like if I have to pick him up basically, then I've lost the battle already. I have to negotiate with him. I have to entice him to want to do something verbally and then him do it on his own accord. Otherwise, like, it just won't work. He hates being controlled. I think most toddlers do. Most 3-year-olds don't like being controlled. And obviously, you just want to get the thing done straight away and just like pick him up, get him to the toilet, him go to the toilet, you wipe, let's crack on with our day. But obviously, everything takes a little bit longer. With toddlers, doesn't it? And I'm really, really learning about patience. I'm really, really learning about self-restraint and just letting things be. And I'm being totally honest with you, I don't find it easy. I do not find it easy at all. I'm trying to do gentle parenting. I'm trying to do conscious parenting. I'm whatever, but it's hard. It's so hard, and patience wears thin a lot of the time for a lot of people, including myself, including George. So yeah, I find it really difficult, but I try and entice him with my words and say, you know, we'll read like make it really exciting for him. Like we'll read a story, or I've got bubbles in the toilet as well. Like we blow bubbles in there to help him try and relax. I don't know what it is. Sometimes he says he's scared. Sometimes he says he's not strong enough. Like these are the kind of phrases that he'll come out with sometimes. And at nursery, he often has accidents. I guess it's probably because there's quite a lot of kids and he, you know, not everyone's watching him 24/7. So they can't necessarily see his body language. They can't necessarily see that he's putting that face. Whereas if you're one-on-one with them, then you can notice that. Interestingly, when he goes, on a certain day, he has like a smaller group where he goes to forest school, and they pretty much always clock it and they always try and get him like on the toilet, and it seems to work. But it's because he needs that one-on-one time. And that one-on-one like encouragement, I guess. And once he does it, he's super proud of himself and whatever. So I know that it will come, and I know that it just needs a lot more work from me and you know, anyone else that's like looking after him and stuff. I do worry about all of these things that say like, oh, you can potty train in 3 days. I think it's a load of rubbish. I'm sure there are some kids out there that can potty train in 3 days. I've not met one. My son certainly was not one. I don't know how helpful that is. I guess if you've got that kind of kid and you want to give that method a go, then go for it. I'm pretty sure that I wanted to give that a go, but it was very clear very early on when we started potty training that wasn't going to be George's method. And so yeah, like that's where we are with it. Like he has accidents, you know, probably, I don't know, like, it's really difficult to put a number on it. Like I'd say maybe 5 times a week, like a mixture of different accidents. Often he'll go like a few days without having anything, and it's like he gets like a nice little reward for that. Yeah, we try and do like a lot of verbal praise. We try and make it really fun and interesting, and I don't ever shame him for having an accident. I think that's really important, because he's told me before that he was embarrassed and he felt bad and sad about when he had an accident at nursery, or if he had an accident at soft play, or if I've been like, oh God, you know, you can't help it sometimes when something's slightly irritating, because you've got to do, you know, a task of like whatever it might be, clearing something up, and you go, oh, like that. I don't want to project that onto him. I don't want to make him feel bad about a situation. It's not his fault. Like he's a 3-year-old. Like it's really not his fault. And I think making him feel bad about it's not going to make it better. It's not going to help him to stop doing it. He'll just learn. I think positive praise. It's again, takes self-restraint, I think, sometimes from me to not be like, oh God, like why did you do that? Or, you know, I try my best utmost to not make those comments, because it's just not helpful. It's not going to help anyone. It's just going to make him feel bad about himself, and it's not going to help him learn how to do it. So yeah, that's basically how potty training's going. Yeah, we went through a stage, a good month and a half of him just like wetting the bed every single night, even after him not having wet the bed for a while. Like, he just didn't get up out of bed. Like, he woke up, decided he needed a toilet, and stood up and just went. It wasn't like he was asleep and it was just like a hormonal thing, because I know that's the thing. Whereas now, what happens often in the night, if he has drank too much before bed, and often I try not let that happen. He has a thing of milk before bed, but I'll try not to give him too much water. Like, we have dinner quite early, like 5 o'clock-ish, so he has time to go to the toilet before bed and stuff like that. But yeah, at the moment, what he does is, when he does need a toilet in the night, he'll wake up, he'll sit up, he'll scream, he'll cry. I'll come into his bedroom, I'll pick him up, pop him on the toilet, his eyes will still be closed, and then he'll go to the toilet, and then I'll get him dressed and sorted, and wash his hands and stuff, and get him back into bed, and he'll go straight back to bed. It's really weird. It's like a sleepwalking thing, or like I don't know what it is, but it works, it's fine. It just means that I get up in the night and help him go to the toilet, which is fine. I'd rather that than him, obviously, you know, wet the bed and even not notice that he's wet the bed, or then and be laying in it, or he'll wake up and he'll be really upset about it. So yeah, it's fine for now. I know that it's not gonna be forever. So yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are. That's my realistic portrayal of my potty training journey so far. The next one I got a lot was, what are your best tips for going from 1 to 2 kids, and does it get easier? Like I say, I'm 7 months in now, so it definitely has got easier. 100% it's got easier, but I would say my top tips, I think it really, really, really depends on your situation, your kids, their different personalities, your setup, your lifestyle. Like, everything that I say could just basically not apply to you. Like, it could just be irrelevant. But for me, and for my kids, and my age gap of my kids and stuff, I found it really hard at the beginning. Not least because of the age gap, I think. So it's about 2.5 years, 2 years and 10 months actually. So in actual fact, I think it's a really good age gap. I just think at the beginning it was really difficult. Now the age gap is fantastic. I'm sure there'll be different stages where that changes, and then it changes back, and then all of that kind of thing. But I really love their age gap. I love that George is so into Hallie. Like, he plays with her and like really wants to make her laugh and build dens with her, and like he's so sweet with her. He's a bit rough. He's very rough. And when she was a baby, like, well, she obviously still a baby. When she was a newborn, it was really difficult to like communicate that with George, that she was a newborn and fragile, and to be honest, very aggy. Like, she was very uptight and cried a lot, and you know, it was really hard to then not get angry at George. And I think my biggest tip for the transition between 1 to 2, if you've got an age gap of roughly like a toddler and a newborn, if that's your scenario, is to, and to be honest, probably beyond that as well, but my biggest thing was to give George praise from Hallie. So if he was doing something really kind, like giving her a nappy or a dummy, or playing with her, or whatever it might have been, I'd say, wow, Hallie thinks that you are so funny. Hallie thinks you're so special. Hallie loves you so much. And instead of me saying, I think you're great, well done, and giving him the praise, I gave the praise from Hallie. And I would say, Hallie thinks you're the best big brother ever. And Hallie thinks you're so smart, and you know, just all of this praise coming directly from her. And say, but like, now if she like makes her smile, for example, I say, Hallie thinks you're so funny, you're making Hallie laugh. Or I say, you're such a good Hallie thinks you're such a good role model when they're eating. For example, Hallie's not like getting on with weaning very well, but we always offer her stuff, and you know, we'll get there. Again, we'll get to weaning in a minute. But when George and Hallie are having their dinner, I say, George, Hallie really wants to see how you eat your food. She wants you to show her how to do it. Can you show her how to do it? And then firstly, that's getting him to eat stuff, bonus. And secondly, it's giving him, you know, the confidence that he's, you know, it's kind of giving him like, he's a big brother and he's really important, but she's also really important because it's his little sister, and they're kind of like building this partnership, and I just love it now. Like, that dynamic between them is fantastic at the moment, and George he's not jealous, he's not, well, not often anyway, like there obviously he has his moments. He used to be, like in the early days, like it was very, very, because she needed a lot of attention because she was a newborn baby, like obviously. And George was a demanding little customer, like he still is, but then he was, like 6 months ago, he was very, very demanding on me. Like he was very, very, he needed a lot of attention, he needed a lot of support with his emotions, as I'm sure a lot of toddlers do. And he needed a lot of stimulating all the time, and so I was forced out of the house to go to the park 24/7 when I had a baby that just was not breastfeeding very well, and I needed to feed her in public, and I just felt really overwhelmed and awful about it. But I needed to get him out. I needed to get George out and about and ran around a park for like half an hour at least. So there was just some really difficult times, like getting out of the house with 2 kids on my own when she was a newborn was so hard, so tough. To answer, does it get easier? Oh my gosh, yes, it definitely does. And I think it's a massive adjustment for all of us. It's a massive adjustment for me being a mum of 1 to then going to a mum of 2. But it was an adjustment for George as well, and I feel like we cannot take away from the fact that it is going to be an adjustment to the older child as well. Like it just really was such a mixture of emotions for everyone. But now we're definitely in a situation where we're all adjusted, which is a really nice place to be. It's normal. If Hallie's not with us for whatever reason, say I'm taking George to soft play and Hallie's staying at home with Ash, we'll get to the car and go, where's Hallie? Where's Hallie? Oh, should we go get Hallie? Like he loves her. He wants her to come with us everywhere. He's like, she's part of our setup now, which it took maybe a few months. I'd say maybe like 2 or 3 months for that to fully get settled. And you know, that's obviously a positive, that it's got better, it's got easier. The transition was rocky, and I'm not going to go into like loads of details, but yeah, we had some really difficult times. But yeah, it does get easier. But my biggest tip is giving praise from the baby to the older child. I think that was a key thing for us. I also got a few questions about work. So the first one was, what is your day job? And my day job is, I am a civil servant. So I work for the government. My specific job, I guess, is like in policy. So I basically write on behalf of ministers, answers for questions that other MPs have written in, or whether that's members of the public, or whatever it might be, whether they're going in front of a committee. I'll put those briefing packs together, or I'll write the answers to questions, and then it goes through like a clearance process, and then the ministers read it and see if they're happy with it, and then that's what they'll either say or they'll publish that, whatever it might be. It depends. I do lots of different things, but that's like the very basic version of it. And the next question on work was, what are your plans on returning back to work? How did your keeping in touch day go? Because I had my keeping in touch day recently. So yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I'm on maternity leave now at the moment. Obviously Hallie's 7 months old. I went back to work when George was 10 months old, and I really, really, really didn't want to. I really didn't want to go back to work that early, and I really didn't like it. And to be honest, I really didn't like it for a very, very long time. It was really difficult for me, for various reasons. The main one just being I didn't like being away from him for that long. I didn't like that I had to go back for 4 days a week, and he was in nursery 8 AM till 6 PM every day. Well, 4 days a week. It was just a lot, and I think, you know, financially, that's what we had to do to be able to pay the mortgage, be able to pay bills. You know, I'm very lucky that I have a decent salary in the job that I do, and I could pay for childcare. Like it was all right. Like it wasn't great. It was very expensive, but it was all right. At the time, it was just the only option that I had. Whereas this time, I do have options. I've got savings, and you know, I built up a decent savings pot so that I could take an extended maternity leave. So I've had 7 months so far, obviously. I've got quite a lot of annual leave to take as well. And my job, I can take up to a year. The first 6 months of that is paid, and then the 3 months after that, so up to 9 months, is statutory maternity pay, and then it's unpaid for the next 3 months, and then you're expected to go back to work, essentially. So that's like the standard maternity. So it's 12 months in total, a variation of paid and not paid. And then add on annual leave and stuff, which I'll definitely do. So I guess I'm due to go back in like around September time, September, October, because that's like after all my annual leave and all of that kind of stuff, that's roughly when it will be. but there's also a question mark over how many days you go back, and you know, if you try and take an extra year off, which is like just unpaid leave, that is an option through the civil service, and it's something that I have been considering. It will be unpaid, it, you know, isn't maternity leave, it's just unpaid leave, and then after the year you return back to work, or you can extend that a little bit more if you wanted to. It's basically like a sabbatical, and the civil service is really good with stuff like that, obviously if there's a business argument for it or whatever. So yeah, like if I'm totally honest, like they're the things that are going through my head at the moment. I haven't made a solid decision, because there's parts of me that really enjoys work and being someone that's not mum for a few hours a day, but at the same time I just don't know, because being a mum of two is different. It's different than being a mum of one. Like for me it's so significantly different, and I so didn't foresee all the challenges that I've had so far. I obviously didn't think it was going to be easy, but I also didn't think it was going to be this hard. So yeah, I've still got a lot to think about, but yeah, if I'm totally honest, that's exactly where I am with it. I still don't know, it's still all up in the air a little bit. But yeah, my keeping in touch day went really well. I spoke with my manager. Like my team are so incredibly supportive, so flexible. Like I think I found like the perfect group of, you know, people and the perfect team within like the sector that I work in and stuff. I really rate them, so if I do return to work, I know I'll be in good hands. And then the last one was, are you still stressed about Hallie's development and weaning, and what are you doing sort of on that front? So I know that I've spoken about this a little bit, and I feel like there are mixed opinions from people about how stressed I get about it. Yeah, sometimes I stress about it because I'm her mum, and like of course it's my job to like, you know, make sure that I'm doing everything that I can do to help her thrive. Like that's not something that I'm going to apologise about. Other times I think, you know what, the best thing for me to do is take that step back, breathe, it's all okay, like weaning will come when it comes, when she's developmentally ready, etc, etc. Like I know that there isn't really much point in stressing about it, but I also know that I want to give myself peace of mind. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can do to help her. The same as anyone else would, and I feel like now I'm in a place where I've looked into things a little bit more. I've spoken to a few professionals, I've, you know, explored a few different avenues with it. I feel like I'm in a much more informed, empowered position to sort of know where to go from here, and I think there's no harm in that if you've got the resources to go out and like access those, whether that's, for example, the things that I've done. It's gone to a physio, I've been to a chiropractor, I've also been to the tongue tie specialist, I've spoken to the health visitor, I've explored all the avenues that I possibly can for the different things that I, you know, had in my head that might be a challenge for Hallie, and none of those people laughed in my face. Every single one of those people and those professionals understood where I was coming from with my concerns. So that was really, I don't know, just it kind of acknowledged how, you know, how I was feeling, but it also really reassured me on so many different levels, whether that was, you know, you're doing the right things, or whether they were giving me certain exercises to help her with her development, whether that was, you know, recommending me this weaning workshop that I'm actually going to go to in an hour. To be honest, I never did anything with George because he just, I didn't do any kind of like classes or lessons or anything like that, because he just took to it like a duck to water. I wasn't anxious, I wasn't worried. I was so laid back actually when it came to all of those kind of things with George, because he was easy, because he was straightforward, and not all kids are. And I don't know whether that's just a change in my personality that I worry a little bit more now, probably a little bit, but also I just want to do what's best, and I've got the time to put into it, so why wouldn't I? So like I said, I'm going to this winning workshop later. It will just give me some ideas about things to change, maybe the atmosphere that I can create for her. I also started listening to Joe Wicks's Weaning 15 podcast. He did a load of, this was like back in 2020, he did a load of podcast episodes, 15 minutes an episode for weaning, and like all the different things, whether that be choking, whether that be baby led weaning versus purees, whether that be how to drop formula or milk or breastfeeding versus when to eat, or about introducing allergens and what happens, you know, if your baby has a reaction. And he's so chilled about everything, and I just think I can definitely take a leaf out of that book, definitely. But knowledge is power, and yeah, I definitely feel like I'm in a better place with it. It's mad, I just always assumed the second time round I'd be far more relaxed, everything would be easier, it would just go with the flow and blah blah blah. And it's just not the case, but that's fine. I'm kind of alright with that. And I know that a lot of people are benefiting from me talking about Hallie's development and things like that, not least because, you know, it's not just her, like lots of babies develop a little bit later, hit milestones a little bit later, or don't take to weaning straight away, and it just kind of makes you feel not alone, I guess, in it. Like I say, I'm trying to do everything I can do to help empower myself and empower her and help give her the best chance. So yeah, I'm not stressed about it right now. I know that I'm doing everything that I can do. But equally, ask me in a week's time when I might have a different answer. Anyway, those were the top questions that I got asked. I think I'm going to leave it there because I feel like I've covered quite a lot of bases. I feel like I've just updated you a little bit on just like how we are, catching up. I finished my coffee ages ago, but I hope you enjoyed our little coffee catch up with a mum friend. I just feel like this is a really nice thing to do sometimes, just have a little catch up with mum friends. Like, I wish I could do this kind of thing in real life a little bit more. So yeah, if anyone is local to me, knows that they're local, then hit me up. But yeah, I am now going to love you and leave you. I'm going to head to the weaning workshop with Hallie and chat to some other mums. I'm really looking forward to meeting some other mums as well. I feel like that's something that I could massively benefit from. So yeah, wish me luck with that. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!
'Cause you glue all the pieces back together. Yeah, you take all my wrongs and make them better. Yeah, you're making me wanna try forever. And I feel so free, oh my sweet baby.